What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Blitz Angle today. We are here for your Week 10 prediction show, best bets, whatever you want to call it. We are back. And this is coming after a Thursday night game that only had 17 points total in it. Hopefully, we get some more scoring for us fantasy football players and our parlays in order to secure some cash and some wins in fantasy football. Dan, let's start off with the overseas matchup between the Atlanta Falcons and the Indianapolis Colts. The Falcons are in a skid. The Colts finally cooled off with Daniel Jones having 5 turnovers. Which team is going to get back on track in this one?
I think my prediction is the Colts get on track. I think that the Steelers played extremely well last week. They had 24 points off turnovers. They got extremely lucky for that, and it was still a close game too. I know it's a 7-point game that the Colts clawed, but on the flip side, I do not trust Atlanta's offense. They have no rhyme, no rhythm. Uh, Penix does not look comfortable right now. And they're playing a Colts team that can score a lot of points, and I think they will. So I don't think Atlanta's gonna be able to keep up with them. Also, the Colts just traded for Sauce Gardner. That's gonna give them a boost. So I think the vibes are a lot better surrounding the Colts, so I went with, Indianapolis.
The vibes are something for sure. And I think the vibes in Atlanta are off, and Raheem Morris could
Yeah.
be without a job before the season's over. Right. Obviously, Zach
Mhm.
Robinson and a lot of the offensive stuff is definitely concerning. And Michael Penix Jr.'s development. He had a nice game, I think, against the Patriots last week. And obviously, a missed PAT is something these Falcons fans are all too familiar with. But the offensive inconsistencies this year for Atlanta, and even in the first half of that Patriots game, were too much for them to overcome, and it's been tough over this stretch
Yeah.
over the past few weeks. What Indianapolis matches up well with Atlanta is the fact that Jonathan Taylor can establish that
Yeah.
run, and they'll have Daniel Jones running play action with Alec Pierce deep, and then Michael Pittman Jr. over the intermediate part of that field. That is a tough matchup for them. We saw Tua Tagovailoa and this Dolphins deep offense cook them 2 weeks ago with that game plan, and if they're able to negate that pressure, and I think they will with Taylor on the ground, then they will have a nice day overseas. Obviously,
Yeah.
with these overseas matchups, there's always something weird that happens with either of these teams. I think the weird thing that happens here for me, Dan, is I think Alec Pierce gets in the end zone for the first time this season in this matchup.
Oh,
I like sprinkling a little bit of money on Pierce. If I'm betting on any player props, I like Kyle Pitts receptions overs, and I also like Jonathan Taylor overs,
yeah, I
anytime
like
touchdown. Those are some bets that I like it mixed up in there. Let's get into our next matchups here. We're going to get into the New York Giants versus the Chicago Bears and what should be a high scoring affair between two defenses that have struggled over the past few weeks and some young, exciting quarterbacks. Dan, what are we taking in this matchup?
Yeah, so I'm looking at first off like the weather. I'm curious how the weather's going to be because that could affect both passing teams here, their offense. But I first look at the Giants defense. They're giving up they're 28th in scoring, 27.7 points per game. They gave up 34 points last week against San Francisco. If it's a crappy weather game, unable to throw, Giants defense, one of the worst in the NFL. They're allowing 150 rush yards per game. They're giving up 5.5 rush yards per play. Uh, I'm not sure, who's gonna be the running back, if it's gonna be Swift or Monangai, but whoever it is, they're gonna have a field day against this Giants defense. I just have a lot of faith in this, Bears offense. I like how it looks. I believe in Ben Johnson. They're 4th in yards, 6th in scoring. They're getting 5.9 yards per play. That's 4th. So I really like the Bears offense, and then, just I can't pick the Giants because they played the Saints that one week, and they gave the ball away 5 times. And
Yeah.
then you're gonna play a Bears defense that's 1st in the NFL in interceptions and 1st in takeaways. So I went with Chicago, especially at home. Bear down.
I think the interesting part for this matchup for me is I do think Jackson Dart's able to move the ball, but this is finally a matchup where the Chicago Bears match up well in terms of talent wise, right? The Giants are
Yeah,
down Cam Scattaboo, they're down Malik Neighbors. The Bears are just not super talented in general on the
yeah,
defensive side of the ball, and I think that's a good match for them. I do think Jackson Dart gets his at times in this matchup, but this is a team that has shown that their run defense might be their strength on the defensive side of the ball, which is obviously what New York is going to try to establish early on. On the flip side, Ben Johnson has this running game humming, and I absolutely love Kyle Monungai and DeAndre Swift overs in this one. I think both of them might cash, and I'm interested to see how many touches Kyle Monungai gets if DeAndre Swift is officially healthy for this matchup and able to cash in. So I like the Chicago Bears. I'm not sure Caleb Williams has a monster day through the air,
Yeah.
but I do think Romo Dunze has a nice bounce back game if we're looking at a Chicago Bears receiver. On the flip side of things, the New York Giants, the matchups you want to target, Wandale Robinson, the Bears ranked third most yards allowed to slot receivers. And then Theo Johnson, he's been scoring touchdowns at an elite rate. The Bears have struggled over the middle of the field. Terrell Edmonds, Tremaine Edmonds, he can't guard uh, tight ends to save his life right now, even though he gets a few interceptions here or there. So those are some guys I like in that. I'm going with the Bears though in this one. I think it'll be a high scoring one, 31-27 in that matchup, and they're going to cover. Let's get into another interesting game: the Ravens versus the Vikings. Dan, the Vikings upset the Lions last week, surprising a bunch of
Yeah.
people. Can they do it again this week against Baltimore and slow down their playoff push?
Well, no, I don't think so. First off, it's the Purple Bowl. If you like the color purple, this is the game for you. The game's in Minnesota. Man, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a good game. I think the thing I look at is Baltimore's defense. Ever since they got healthy, under 18 points in 3 straight games. You average that out. That's 13 points a game. So this defense is really starting to find their rhythm right now. Over that stretch, they've had 5 takeaways. So I really like the Ravens for a bounce back. We know Minnesota, they're not really protecting well in the year, and we see JJ. Even last week, JJ McCarthy made a lot of plays evading sacks with his legs. He's a weapon with his feet. So I think he's going to have to do the same this week. But my key for this game is Minnesota's defense is second highest in blitz rate, 41.4%. Lamar Jackson versus the blitz this season, 9 TDs, 1 interception. His quarterback rating, 136.4. That's first in the NFL. So, Minnesota loves the blitz. Lamar loves it too. So you do it, he's gonna burn you. So I like the Ravens in this game.
Yeah, I think honestly, like the big concern for me, JJ McCarthy, 0 games over 25 passing attempts in his young career. If the run
Yeah.
game doesn't get going, which Baltimore has done a great job of slowing opponents' running games down over the past few weeks, right? It is going to be tough sledding for this team. And I know Justin Jefferson's a great player. He's going to get his, but you are going to have to slow down Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, which is something that very few teams have been able
Tough.
to do. This team gets 30 points like cakewalk against clockwork, sorry, against a lot of teams on a weekly basis. I think both those guys are going to be able to cash in on that matchup. TJ Hawkinson unders, Jordan Addison unders are things I'm targeting based on their matchups alone. Both Hawkinson and Addison have seen a significant decrease in their receiving yards with JJ McCarthy at quarterback. I am riding with the Ravens in this one, 31-20. I think it's going to be a nice cover for the Ravens on the road against a good
Okay.
Vikings team. Let's get into the two toilet bowl matchups of the early slate: the Buffalo Bills at the Miami
What we
Dolphins,
got here?
and then the Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets. Dan, what are some of the things you're looking at in both these matchups?
Okay, yeah. So for Buffalo, Miami, my key thing is James Cook. We know Miami's having trouble, against the run. They've shown improvement over the last 2 weeks, but this Bills offense is different. James Cook 5.7 yards per carry and 108 rush yards per game. That's first among running backs. So we both know that once James Cook starts going, it just opens everything up for this Bills offense. So I like the Bills to keep the train rolling. And then the next game, Browns Jets. This is a tough matchup. The spread's close. You know, Man, I like the Browns can't score. The Jets can't score either. I like
It's
this
going to
is
be
gonna be an
Broncos Raiders.
it might be. It might be. I wonder who's got a better punter. I don't know. But I think the difference in this game is the Browns have the better defense. Browns, 10 sacks the last 2 weeks. On the season, they're top 10 overall. Their sack rate is third in the NFL. On the other hand, the Jets offense has allowed 31 sacks this season. That's fourth worst in the NFL. Uh, I just think Miles Garrett's going to lead this Browns team to a win. So the Browns are going to get a dub this week.
Yeah, the thing I look at is the X factor in that one. I think the Jets have zero momentum after the trade deadline. They traded away
Yeah,
their
me
star
too.
players on defense. Quinshon Judkins is going to have a very good performance against this defense. And I think he's going to carry this Browns running game. Even if he's out, like I think Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford could hold down the fort and maybe get 80 plus rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. which will be nice for that team in that game. I like them against the Jets. I think the Jets are coming in with zero momentum. Justin Fields faces a good defense. We all know how that turns out majority of the time. And then you look at Buffalo versus Miami. This was a close matchup the first time, but Buffalo just regained all their momentum the last 2 weeks, beating the Panthers and the Chiefs. They have the second most sacks now in the NFL. Tua can't get protected. He turned the ball over a ton. I like the Bills in that one. They should be able to cover the spread in that game. Let's get to the best matchup of that early slate. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the New England Patriots. Dan, going to be a great matchup here. Who are you taking?
So, does the winner of this game claim Tom Brady? I'm asking for a friend. That's what I want to know.
The winner of
We
this
should ask.
game determines how good Drake May is.
Yeah, we should ask our guy Brady Penn here. This is a big game for him. Yeah, this is gonna be an interesting game. I'm curious who you picked. I have no idea. I just think the difference in this game, I'm going to continue to harp on it, is the Patriots are just Drake May's getting hit too much. He's like it's just too many sacks. Like I feel bad for him. He's a great player, but he's getting hit too way too much, and that can lead to bad things. The Patriots have allowed 6 sacks back to back weeks. That's rough, man. They welcome a Bucks pass rush that's coming off a bye, and over their last 3 games, 15 sacks. I mean, did you see what they did against the Saints, man? They were flying right before the bye week. So this Bucks team's legit, man, legit. Bucks defense 6 interceptions the last 4 games. I'm picking the Bucks. Obviously, we know the Patriots are a solid team right now, but I think this is gonna be too much for them.
Yeah, I think the interesting part about I think the Patriots will move the ball at times throughout this game. I think it's going to come down to big plays where Drake May does not get the ball out of his hands potentially, and the Bucks get a big time game
Okay.
changing sack. They're starting to get a little bit healthier. Obviously, we know they're missing Mike Evans, but they're getting some pieces
Yeah.
back on the offense that should help them be a little bit more consistent than what they were to the bye week. And Baker started the season hot. Like we were having Baker MVP talks. They cooled off
Mhm.
as of late, but they were playing really well. They got healthy over this bye week, which they desperately needed. Had it a week to prepare for New England, who really struggled in the second half against Atlanta when this offense wasn't able to get the ball out of their hands. They didn't have the running game to go along with it. And with Tampa Bay, you're going
Yeah.
to have to run the football to keep this team on their heels. So, the Patriots, who struggled running the ball the entire year, don't get that thing going. I'm a little bit concerned that, Drake May can maintain that type of efficiency throughout this one. I do think the Patriots will keep it close. I think May does have a very good game, but I think Baker and company just do enough to win this one 27-24. I am going with
Okay.
the Bucks. All right, let's get to two division matchups here that I'd like to talk about. The Arizona Cardinals take on the Seattle Seahawks, and then the Jacksonville Jaguars take on the Houston Texans. Dan, obviously, two teams that were around the playoff mix last year. Obviously, the Texans in, Cardinals weren't in last year, and you get two teams in that playoff mix now that weren't the Jaguars and the Seahawks. Do you think we could see an upset here from either of those games?
Yeah, so what would be the, like, what do you base an upset on? Like, the odds here for the
No,
Jaguars and
obviously
Texans
the
game?
odds are a little bit different, but which team obviously that has a losing record has a better chance of winning? And obviously the Texans are
Okay.
without Stroud.
Yeah, I think still, like, I'll start with that game, Jacksonville, Texans. I think, just I trust the Texans defense, man. I do worry. I gotta check their injury report because the last I saw, Will Anderson was hurt. I don't know if he got a man, where's this game at? If he practiced, because that'd be a huge loss here. He was limited. Okay, that's a little better. But I mean, Jacksonville's defense. Sorry, I know I'm flipping. Jacksonville's defense, 28 plus points, 3 of the last 4. They're not getting after the quarterback either. They're last place, 10 sacks on the season, 32nd. I know they're playing a backup quarterback, but Davis Mills looked okay against this Denver's defense that we saw was pretty impressive on Thursday night. Houston's defense, number 1 in points per game, tied 3rd in the lowest 4.7 yards per play allowed. Uh, their QB rate is lowest in the NFL. So I just trust Houston's defense more. And I know you're gonna love this. Trevor Lawrence just does some crazy stuff every game. He'll just give the ball away. He did it last week against the Raiders. He's
Sounds
good
like
for
the
one
guy for
this
the
game.
Broncos.
Hey, maybe, but he'll do something. Maybe it'll be a close game and he'll throw a pick or fumble. Something's gonna happen. So I went with Houston in that game. This Arizona Seattle game gonna be a lot of fun. The thing I worry about is uh, Arizona can't pass block. They just gave up 5 sacks to a Dallas Cowboys team that can't get after the quarterback. The previous week, before their bye, they faced Green Bay. They gave up 6 sacks and season high pressure rates. And then they gotta go to Seattle and play that team. Did you watch that game on Sunday night? Just a bad recipe. Also, they're kinda banged up. Mac Wilson's hurt, starting linebacker. They're down 2 corners. They haven't been practicing this week. Yeah, Seattle's a Super Bowl team. We're 94 days away from the Super Bowl, and that's my pick right now. Seattle is the NFC favorite. They're different.
Interesting. Yeah, I like
But
Seattle in that one. I think that
yeah,
it's a good test for them offensively. The Cardinals, showed really well against the Cowboys last week, and obviously you
they play
mentioned the
tough.
corner injuries, but I think it's a good test for them. I think it'll be, a way that Sam Darnold, JSN, Rashid Shaheed makes his debut for the
Yeah,
Seahawks. Like we'll see what all these weapons look like when they come together. I think the Seahawks win that game. I'm kind of staying away from player props in that one. I'm not sure if I really like any. So if anything, just bet the Seahawks to win or cover by -2.5. Take your money and then leave. And then for the other game, I actually like the Texans as well. Davis Mills played pretty well against the Broncos last week, and I
yeah,
don't think it's as big of a difference losing CJ Stroud to Davis Mills as a lot of people think. The Jags defense, Devin Lloyd is the biggest X factor. If he misses again,
yep.
right, that's a massive loss. He's been their
Changes.
best defensive player the entire year, and when he's been on the field, his defense has been significantly better. And then
Different.
offensively, Brian Thomas Jr., I know he's been what he's been this year, but another key loss probably this week. I think the Texans are going to be able to bully the Jacksonville Jaguars in that one.
Good point.
And Davis Mills will do just enough at the quarterback position to get a win. And this is the start, Dan, of where the Jaguars fall apart and miss the playoffs this year for me. Is this game right here sets the tone for the second half of the year for the Jaguars. Let's get into a expected blowout: the Lions versus the Commanders. Dan, the Commanders have any sort of chance of pulling off the upset in this matchup?
Oh, man, yeah, I don't think so. My key matchup to watch is Detroit right now. Their defense, 28 sacks on the season. That's good for second in the NFL. Washington's playing without Jaden Daniels. Mariota has looked okay, but still, their offensive line has been really bad. Uh, they're giving up just league worst, like the bad. Man, I got top 10. Washington top 10 in sacks allowed. It's one of the worst teams in the NFL. They cannot block. So I think that's going to be the difference. And maybe I don't know if it's going to play a role how they lost to the playoffs. The Lions might want to take it to them, but I just think the Lions are a way better team roster wise on both sides of the football, and they need this win. So I picked Detroit.
David Montgomery is scoring a touchdown this week. This is the week to bet on David Montgomery
There you
against
go.
the Commanders defense that has stunk this year and over the
Yeah,
past few weeks. They got no momentum. You lose your star quarterback the way they did
yeah,
last week. They've had injuries the entire year. The Commanders are playing for pride at this point, and the Lions are coming in a little pissed off with how they played against the Vikings last
yeah.
week. Should be a good get back game for them. And obviously, this is a revenge game. Jaden Daniels took this team down last year, and it doesn't have as much momentum compared to what it
Hmm.
was, with everybody healthy. So I got Detroit in this one, and David Montgomery. If you want to bet on him, he's the guy you want to bet on. Let's get into another NFC West matchup. The Rams take on the 49ers. Ricky Pearsall's again out. We have no word on what he's dealing with, but Brock Purdy once again limited. Who knows what we get at quarterback? The Rams, Matthew Stafford, top of the list for MVP candidates right now. What are your thoughts? Can the Rams maintain their pace with the Seahawks in the division?
Yeah, I think so. Rams just they're one of the heavyweights of the NFC. They're rolling right now, just like you said. Stafford could be MVP favorite. He's been incredible. 3 touchdowns, 4 of the last 5 games. The offense is clicking, and we're gonna see if he keeps throwing touchdowns because that'd be cool. That'd be cool. I don't know. I don't think he's ever won an MVP, and he's been awesome his entire
No,
career. So yeah, we'll see how he performs this week, and especially too after that Thursday night game when they lost the Rams. Good revenge game for this team. But I think my main takeaway is the LA Rams defense since their loss to the 49ers in Week 5. Their point average 6.6 points points per game. They only
yeah.
given up their last 3 weeks 3 points, 7 points, 10 points. Their defense is rolling right now. So, I like the Rams this week.
Yeah, the Rams have been playing really well on both sides of the ball. If I'm going with the prop in this one, I like Stafford 2 plus touchdowns. 49ers,
All
I
right,
think Kittle has a nice game. Tungus had a nice game against them last time. But I think the thing with, the 49ers is it's just been their defense over the past few weeks. Like they get no
yeah,
pressure, right? They don't match up well against the run right now. They're being coached to compete in games with Robert Sala and how good of a defensive mind he is. It's not going to last this week against, the Rams, and I know they had success against them in a previous matchup, but it feels
Thursday night.
really hard and really unlikely that they are able to slow him down with even more injuries on that defensive side of the ball than they had in that last matchup. So I'm going with the Rams. I think Stafford has a nice day, 2 plus touchdowns. Never a bad idea to bet Devontae Adams touchdown with his
Yeah,
usage.
he's
So he's been unbelievable. All right, let's get into Sunday Night Football. The Pittsburgh Steelers are once again playing on Sunday night, and they're taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. The Steelers took down a juggernaut in the Indianapolis Colts last week. Dan, what version of the Steelers are we going to get this week?
yeah, I think we're gonna get the good one. They're desperate. They're desperate, and I think this is kind of like a playoff feel. Like these teams got to keep pace with the AFC. It's a primetime matchup. Should be a good environment. And honestly, it's on the road, but I think there's gonna be a lot of Steeler fans. There's gonna be a lot of yellow in that stadium
There
on
definitely
Sunday
will
night.
be. The Chargers will
Yeah, a
for
lot of.
sure be pumping crowd noise, though, so don't worry.
Oh yeah, yeah, they always do. That's a different story. But, the Chargers come in winners 3 of their last 4 games. Their offense has scored 24 plus points in all 4 games. The only difference is they just lost Joe Alt for the season.
Yep.
I harped on it on our one Thursday night game after they beat the Vikings. Their offense is completely different. It's just a different mentality with them, different offense, everything about it. So I just the Chargers are a different team without him. Pittsburgh's defense last week, 6 takeaways, 5 sacks. My thing with them is they played a lot more zone. The Cincinnati game and, the Packers game, they played a lot of man to man. They got older corners, they can't do that anymore. They switched it up, they played a lot more zone. You saw what happened, last week. So I think, if it's a close game, one of those guys, TJ Watt, Highsmith, they're gonna make a play. They have 16 takeaways this year. The defense that's second in the NFL. So when it matters most, Mike Tomlin teams always make a play. So I got the Steelers.
Yeah, and I think both these teams are actually eerily similar. Like they have kind of
Yeah,
similar, I don't want to say holes on both sides, but like the Chargers offensive line now without Slater and Alt, this
brutal,
offense
man.
has looked different this year. Like Herbert hasn't been able to have the time to find his four now great pass catchers, right? And they're still beat up. Amari and Hampton's still out for a few weeks. Like they don't have all the playmakers there. And Herbert's actually not been playing as good as he did to start the year. Obviously, he has players out and it's not helping. So offensively, you have a little bit of concerns, but the Chargers' run defense just has not been as good. And I know they were really good against the Vikings on Thursday Night Football, but outside of that performance, they have actually struggled
Yes,
on the ground this year. And I like Jalen Warren to have a nice day against this defense in terms of rushing yards. And I think that, Aaron Rodgers, while he's not necessarily having the most gaudy stat numbers, he's played well this year given the weapons that he's had at his disposal. And they're always in these games, it feels like right now. And if
yeah,
they were able to maintain the momentum in the Packers game, I think we'd be looking at the Steelers in a different light compared to how a lot of people do right now. I think TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, like you mentioned, should be in for a nice day, picking on some backup offensive linemen for the Chargers. I think that's the biggest difference for me on Sunday night. That is the game I'm looking forward to most this week. Um, and then
really.
Monday night, Eagles versus Packers. Dan, what version of the Green Bay Packers are we getting?
I think we're getting the good one because my thing with the Green Bay is they're like the definition of they played to the level of their competition. We saw it against Cleveland. We saw it last week against the Panthers. So I think we're getting the good version. You got the reigning NFC champions, Super Bowl champions coming to your place prime time Monday night. I think they're going to get the Packers' best shot. You know, talking about the Eagles all season. Like I don't know where you are with the offense, but I still don't trust it. I still do not trust this passing game. They're having trouble running the football, and the Packers defense is pretty solid against the run. And I really like if they jump on Philly early. Jalen Hurts is gonna have a tough time against this pass rush. So I just like the Packers overall. They match up really well. They played in Brazil. I know last year, week 1 and in the playoffs, but I just think Packers match up really well. My key thing for this game is Philadelphia plays a lot of man coverage this season. That's kind of their thing. They're the eighth highest team in man coverage, 35.4% on the season. Jordan Love against man, second highest in the NFL, 9.1 yards per attempt, 11 touchdowns versus man coverage. That's the fifth. He's got the fifth highest passer rating against his coverage. So I think Jordan Love's gonna tear him up. You saw what he did against, Pittsburgh when they ran mad. He had 4 touchdowns. I forget how many yards, but he looked incredible.
Yeah.
So, I think they're gonna miss Tucker Kraft. That's a huge loss. But, they do have Luke Musgrave, who I like coming out, 6'6" tight end out of Oregon State who's really fast. So let's see if they get him involved early and often. But I like Green Bay. I'm curious to see who you picked, but I like Green Bay.
I'm actually gonna go Philly in this one, and it's a large part due that
Alright.
I just don't think Green Bay is a good football team right now, right? They're not necessarily clicking or firing on all cylinders, as one would say. Their defense has allowed a good amount of points 3 of their last 4 games, right? Their pass rush hasn't been as prolific, and we all know their cornerback situation isn't that great, right? They do stop the run at a very good level, and last week they didn't do that. So with the Packers defense, I don't know what I'm getting. With the Eagles offense, I also don't know what I'm getting, but I know that AJ Brown's healthy. Saquon Barkley is healthy going into this matchup. They had a whole week to prepare for this Packers defense, and I don't have a lot of trust in Kevin Patullo, but this is also an offense that's scoring 25 points in multiple of their last games, despite a lot of their struggles. They're an offense that hits on their big plays and looks a lot better at the end of the day on a box score than they actually do on the field a majority of the time. And I think against this Packers defense, right, that could be the dagger that does it, especially against a secondary. I like AJ Brown. I like Devonta Smith to have nice days. I think Dallas Goedert's the odd man out in this one. The Packers have been pretty good against tight ends. And then you kind of flip sides of it. The Eagles got a ton of reinforcements at the deadline. Jalen Phillips off the edge, Michael
That's
Carter
true,
at
that's
corner,
true.
Jair Alexander's back there now.
Yeah.
Like they got some reinforcements on a good defense already. They're going to have a nice day, I think, against the Packers. I think Tucker Kraft is a massive loss for that offense. He's their yak guy. He gets the ball and he's able to make guys miss and he gets this offense going. It's going to be an even bigger, responsibility of Romeo Dobbs to take on a bigger workload in this offense and be that guy. He's been pretty good this year, but I just don't think Jordan Love is consistent enough for me to trust in this matchup. And I'm going to take Philly in this one. I think Philly wins the rematch, and I think that Philly continues to be one of those teams that wins ugly. Like they're the Denver of the AFC like this year. They're or the
Hey,
NFC.
hey.
Denver and Philly are pretty eerily similar teams, but I think Philly looks a little bit better on offense at times than Denver and more consistent. But they're going to find a way to win in this matchup. I think it's going to be a one score game, and I think it's going to come down to the Packers not having Tucker Kraft and their defense just lacking a true elite secondary to lock down that Philadelphia Eagles team. Well, guys,
Good
there's our
point.
Week 10 predictions and our best bets. Drop yours down in the comment section below. We will react to them. Hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this video, and me and Dan will catch you guys next time.